And live.
Okay, hello everyone. This is Raymond Wood from Professional Player Pathway. We're just going to ask everyone if you keep your microphones on mute. We're happy if you want to turn your cameras on, that's up to you. For anyone who's not joined us on our monthly Zoom calls before, we're just going to walk through just some of the rules that we abide by. So guys, if you want to ask any questions to me or Juliéth, if you drop them into the comments, we will ask questions at the end for you. Also, guys, if your microphone is not muted, Shelley will try and go through and mute them, but can you mute them yourselves as well, guys? Because if you're talking and it comes over me and Juliéth, it can be quite disruptive while we're trying to go through the presentation. So hopefully everyone's on mute. So I'm going to do a big welcome to Juliéth. She's reaching out to us all the way from Germany in Europe. How are you, Juliéth?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. I'm so excited to join you guys.
Thank you. So just to let Juliéth know, this is going to go out to thousands of our players all around the world who we work with. We've got quite a few online with us tonight. Now, I was very fortunate to meet Juliéth last year, and we were both part of the UEFA Player Agent course. And I thought what a great way to start off, Juliéth, would be maybe just to start out with your career, where you started and how you got involved in football.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I had the dream, like many of you, to be a football player, actually. But back at the days in Colombia, I never saw any women just playing football. So I really liked the idea to become maybe like a journalist. And then I kind of mixed these both fields. And yeah, so I started at the university with the Bachelor Communication. And then at the third semester, I joined like a broadcast radio local in Cartagena, Colombia. And then I started to commentate football games of the second division in Colombia. And yeah, at the same time, I started to learn English, German, French, and, preparing myself because I wanted to be an international journalist. So that's why, because my dream was to cover Champions League games, like international, like World Cups and everything. So I applied for an internship at a German broadcast. And then I was taken. So I went to Germany when that was like 8 years ago. And then yeah, so it started all the dream came true because I was interviewing stars. Then when I was working also for ESPN, covering Bayern Munich, covering PSG, covering I don't know, like many international matches, Champions League, Bundesliga games, and international friendly matches in Japan, in Asia, and in Europe for the national team, for the Colombian national team, and also for the German national team, for the German broadcast. And then I was given an opportunity to become a football commentator, but also like at the same time I started to get education as a coach because I really liked the idea to develop players. So that's why I joined these programs, and I was a coach also in Germany. At the same time, I was working as a journalist, football commentator, and on this path, I met a lot of players, professional players. For example, Carlos Grueso, who was playing at Stuttgart and at Augsburg. So he kind of motivated me to become an agent because he told me, you really are into football, you really care about football, about the development of players. I joined him and his family in this process in Germany. So that was that the motivation that I had, because I was like, what? Like women can become agents? Like I didn't see this before. So that was like the same, mindset that I had when I was a kid, that I never saw women also playing football. And they was like, why me? He said like, why not? And then I did my test, FIFA agent test, and then I passed. I really like learned very hard, and yeah, so I'm now I'm proud to that to be a like a graduate from the UEFA agent program, which I met Ray. So yeah, that was like my path, and now I'm taking care of players, helping them to reach their goals, and yeah, that's it. That's my story.
That's amazing, Juliéth. Thank you for that. I've had a few internet connection problems, but I've just moved to my other room and my other part of the house. So hopefully this will be a little bit better. But that was an amazing backstory. Now, Juliéth, I obviously didn't know a lot of that information. And one of the real big ones that I want to touch on first with you, you mentioned as a female player, it was pretty tough to try and become a player. And one of the programs that we run is called the Pro Player Pathway, and it's to help boys and girls make it and to understand there is a pathway. What was one or two of the big areas that really you struggled with to make it as a player when you wanted to play professionally?
I think as a coach, because I didn't, I played football in the streets, not like in the club or something like that. But I think like many players struggle because they don't have like a guide. They don't have like a pathway. They don't have this whole holistic thing that maybe help them to reach their goals. So I think like in every field in life, you need a lot of guidance, you need a lot of mentorship, because I had it also in my pathway as a journalist or as a coach. I had always people, on my side. So for me, it's like one of the biggest things. I don't think like people are, you know, we were born, but with our families and with our parents, they support us. So in every field in life, you need these people who supports you. So I think, yeah, that's a good point for me.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Now, what do you think was one of the things that maybe really could have helped you? Do you think it would have been the pathway, or do you think it would have been maybe having a coach who had a contact that they could have opened up for you? Do you think there's one area in particular that would have really helped?
Yeah, that depends a lot of the context. I don't know how it is in Australia, but in Colombia, you need a lot of contacts. I mean, you need like the talent, but you need the opportunity. That's those two things are very, very are core for your, I don't know, success, maybe, but also be prepared for that. So, but I think contacts are a very, very interesting thing. Now on my side as an agent, I see it as my strength from one side because as a journalist, I made a lot of contacts in football. Um, and also for the players, I see in them like they struggle because they are in an academy, they want to go there, they want to get a tryout or something like this, and they don't know how. So I think it's also a good point.
Now, since obviously you've gone into Germany, and it must have been, 8 years ago when you'd done it. Was it quite scary being young, being female, giving it a go? And what did your family think about like doing that big move? And did they support you, or because as you know, I've got two daughters, and I'd be like, oh, don't go, stay.
That's a good question. That's a good question, and I talk a lot about this with my players because I tell them it's not easy. I lived that by myself in my flesh. So I went to Germany alone. I was, I had so many fears that I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna learn the language. I'm not gonna, success. And German is a very difficult and challenging language. So you can be disappointed like right away. And then I tell them, like these things made me grew a lot. And that's an opportunity for you, for your life to grow, because I know in Colombia, for example, my mother is really like protective, and we didn't do so much at home, you know. So we had like cleaner, how to say it, like cleaner ladies, like nannies, like this and that and that. So we're very spoiled. And then to go out alone and to Germany, to a very cold place where people are not that friendly. I mean, it was a very big change. So I think yeah, so it's a resilience. I always talk about resilience. It was the most important thing for me to survive in a good way, because survive, okay, you are out of your comfort zone, but then you realize it was a good opportunity. You moved on from that, what knew as a person, as a Colombian or whatever, but then, and you are now open to new opportunities, to a new world, to a new people, culture. So yeah, that's what I have to say. We have
That's so good. It's one of the big things that we have, Juliet, because what we do is we've got players in Australia, Canada, the USA. We've got players in the UK. And one of the big things that we have is for both the boys and the girls is when they get that opportunity to go and play, say, in England, it's actually moving from maybe the US or Australia and doing that at the age of 16 and 17. And I'm so glad you touched on it, because this is one of the things that I speak about to our players is resilience. And it's not just on the pitch. Lessons that you get off the pitch will help you on the pitch as well. So it's a great point that you touched on. Now, talking about resilience, and I was blown away when I actually discovered that you can actually speak, obviously, Spanish, English, German, and French.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. So which out of all the languages is the hardest to learn? And do you think it's giving you a real edge being an agent, having different levels of languages?
Yeah, for sure. I love languages also. Like I also learned Chinese, like the
Wow.
basics, just basics. But I still remember a lot. Yeah. So for me, the most difficult language to learn was German, definitely, definitely. French is a little bit like the same structure as Spanish, and yeah, Chinese is another thing, but it was like not that difficult. But anyways, yeah. So what was the next question? The
So the next part I asked was which was the hardest one? So you've covered that was German. Is the one in particular that you find that has really helped you being an agent, a particular language,
yeah,
or is it just the fact you've got many?
of course, yeah, for sure. Like when you can talk in the same language is even better. So the connection is better. Of course, English is the worldwide main language. Just to say that, but I think it's a good win. So that's what I say to the players. I mean, of course, if you can come to Germany, you speak English is good. But then if you show that you're interested in to learn the language, to get integrated in the culture, like just you don't have to speak perfectly. You have just to show interest. It's also good for your brain. It's also good for your
Yes.
brain. you know there are many studies that they say when, for example, for Alzheimer, it's really good. So for
Yeah.
kids, I'm sure is really good.
And I'm just to touch on that's a good point that what we do with all of our players when we take them on trials to the UK and Europe and we get them opportunities, one of the things that we really encourage is education. Now, the reason why we have to gear the players towards education is for obvious reasons, like we don't want our players just to rely on football. But one of the other
Yes.
areas is that education aspect. And that's the beautiful thing that if a player goes into Spain or France or Germany, they can pick up that language. And as you've already shown, and this is what we try to show to our players, you might have a short career or you might have a long career, but when you finish playing, you might want to stay in the game of football. And there's different roles. You could be a physio, you can be a
Yes.
coach, you can be an agent, but having multiple languages, and you've just touched on Like I've done studies on it, and we done study papers on Serena and Venus Williams. And at the age of 13 and 14, their dad got them to learn French and Spanish fluently. And he believed it opens up pathways in the brain, which helped them with the game of tennis. And it's been proven scientifically, it does open up different areas of your brain, which then
Yes.
expands decision making. And there's no surprises. Then you look at like Rafa Nadal, Roger Federer, they can all speak multiple languages very, really competently. And then it's the same with football players. We found two trends in football players. One was multiple languages, and one was having multiple siblings, older siblings. So
Okay.
when you've got an older brother and sister, and many of them, your agility, balance, coordination gets advanced because you're the younger one. And there's no surprise that Ronaldo and Messi are one of 5 and 7 children.
Okay. That's a good fact.
Now, everyone I'm
But I know.
noticing we've got, sorry, Julie, if we're getting a fair few questions getting dropped into the chat at the bottom. Guys, if anyone wants to ask a question, in about 10 minutes, I'm going to read out some of the questions, and Julie will try her best to answer them. Sorry, Julie, if you carry on.
No, I just remember that I also take an example, Claudio Pizarro, who was, he played for Bayern Munich and he integrated himself in the German culture. He learned the language. He was not perfectly talking, but now after the career, he has many, many, many contracts. He's like really loved. He's really loved in Germany. Everyone loves him, and he has a lot of opportunities. He's an ambassador of Germany, and he goes everywhere of Bayern Munich. Sorry, and then he goes everywhere with them. And yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Now, one of the things I wanted to ask you was, how many players are you currently working with and representing? And are you only working with players in Germany, or do you work with players all around the world?
Okay, right now I'm working with players from South America.
Okay.
I think my goal is to sign players who are mixed, like they are, I don't know, they are South American and they grew up here in Germany or in Europe or something like that. That was like my target. But nowadays I'm like open, so it's like, yeah, it depends. Like if I have a good connection with the player, if we have the same philosophy of working, that's what I always say to them. Like we are, it's like sister, like daughter, like mother, for me it's like the same. We have to be on the same page and work on the same page.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Now, on our program, once players have been on our community, the app, for 12 months or longer, they get access to agents, and we're currently adding player agents on to the platform, including myself as well. But also, one of the things that we do is on our full-time program as well. Anyone who's on our full-time Pro Player Pathway program, they get access to an agent straight away. So that's one of the things that we're hopefully going to be able to introduce yourself to. And we've got many, many more agents, because one of the problems that we found was that there's a lot of good players out there, but they just don't know how to connect. But also, the big problem for agents, as well as I understand this, you guys just get inundated with inquiries. And it's how you manage that and how you deal with the players who are ready, the ones who need a bit of work. And that's one of the big solutions that we've come up with on the Pro Player Pathway, of which I'll showcase to you at the end of the meeting.
Okay, nice.
Now, I think we will go to questions because we've got about 15 to 20 minutes to go. So, guys, again, if you haven't dropped any questions in, please drop them in the chat box at the bottom. Now, I'm going to read out the questions. So, the first thing, or the first question I've got for you, Juliéth, is from Jake, and he's actually based in Brisbane in Australia as well. Now, Jake is a goalkeeper, 16, 17 years of age. He's one of, probably, I'm going to be biased because I've worked with him for a few years. He's one of the best goalkeepers I've seen. And I'm telling you now, this boy doesn't have an agent yet, but also he will go on, and I believe he'll go on and play Premier League football as a goalkeeper. So the question from Jake is, what things do you look for from players as an agent? And is the key things that you're looking for?
It depends about the situation of the player, but for me, the main thing is the opportunity, the next step. we do our like the roadmap, like the career planning, sorry, and then we decide, okay, how we gonna move in the next months. That's for me like the main, activity. But there are many activities around. Some agents, they are more close to the players, and then they care about the holistic things. And in my case, I'm very close to the players, and I like to be like, I like to provide nutrition advice, like through experts or mental coach, or it depends about the situation, about the level, about the what's the next thing to do, because you have to prepare to that. So the main thing for me is to anticipate what are you are not right now.
Yeah. No, it's a great point, and that's one of the things that I think people forget is building that relationship with the player, with the family,
Yeah.
and that's something that I think goes amiss sometimes. I think in the past, maybe with agents, not all of them, but with some of them, it was about money, and it wasn't really about building a relationship. But
Mm.
it's testament to you and your agency. You can see that by building them relationships gives you better relationships with them. Now, another question that I've got is from Kelly Lowe, and it says, let me find it. I had it ready and it's disappeared. It is. So your job sounds really interesting. Do you think there's any players or any players that you currently manage or any players that you've worked with in the past who maybe some of the players on here may know? Have you worked with any famous players, or is there any up and coming players that you're excited by, and who did he play for?
Okay, so when I mentioned this player, I work with him. Like I was looking for opportunities. He had his own agent, but he, as a friend, as an agent, he told me, let's work also on my opportunities. So this guy, he is an international with Ecuador. So it's a international player. And right now I have just like young players who are on the way to get the best opportunities. Right now I have a goalkeeper. He was invited twice to Bayern Munich. He's coming this year to Bayern Munich for a program. It's called the Bayern FC World Squad. And through this program, I'm looking for him, like opportunities for him in Europe and in other teams, just making the most of the platform and of the visibility he has with Bayern Munich right now. But he's an international, under 19 years old, international with Mexico. And yes, so they are on the way. But right now, because as I mentioned, I was a journalist, I was a football commentator. I'm in a transition, to say it that way, in a transition. But also, yeah, I have worked a little bit with these players, like big players. This transfer window, I try to work also with players, but they are known in Colombia, not internationally. Yeah, that's it.
Great answer. Now, the next question, and I love this one. This is asking, what do Bayern Munich look for when they trial? And a club's looking for particular things. So when you work and deal with the top clubs, is there certain things like Bayern Munich are looking or is every club looking for the same thing?
I think they are looking for the same thing, every of them. But it's so difficult to say what are they looking for. I mean, of course, this kind of player that makes the difference. But how can you make the difference? Like the way I always say, the player is unique, and if he has something different, like in whatever you want to highlight yourself, I think. But I don't know, like technically, like maybe for about personality, there are a lot of things that you cannot say. And there are many scouts, and they have many points of view, so I cannot say it like properly one thing.
Yeah.
But they
No,
want, of
that's
course, young players that they are easily to adapt to their game, to their philosophy, and then like that they don't take so much time also for, about mentally to make the next step. And then of course, Bayern Munich, they're not gonna take all the players to the first team, but the next step will be, okay, maybe he can go from the academy in Nigeria to the third division in Germany. So it's a big step, it's a big, big step for them. So that's the way they want to work because, of course, when you know about all this training compensation and all these things, all these assets that, it's also money for them, investment. So they want to make the most of it. So that's the thing that they are looking for, players that they can invest in, and then they are reliable to sell them.
Yeah, 100%. It was really interesting when I was at Leicester City in the Premier League, and when they recruited players, especially youth players like 16s and 17s for the under 18s, they would do an interview with the mum and dad first before they even looked at the player. And they were really big on interviewing the parents first because their belief was the child is likely to turn out to be like mum and dad to a point. And it
Yeah.
was really interesting. And once they started adding that in, that was about 5 or 6 years prior to winning the Premier League. And then ironically, they went on and won that Premier League 5 or 6 years later. And there was 4 or 5 of them players who went from the 14s and 15s in the academy into the first team. So that was it was a really interesting way to look at it. Now, Juliéth, next question. I love this one. And I was waiting for the first female question. This is a great one, being a dad of 2 girls. So are you currently working with any female players at the moment? And obviously, in the past, it's probably been hard as an agent to work with female players in a sense of they don't earn the same salary as men. So it must be a lot harder to try and earn a commission and earn a living as well. Because I heard this comment a few weeks ago and it was by a female agent actually. And what she said was is that it's really tricky at the moment with the female players because you've got to put the same time and effort in with the girls as the men, but you might only be earning 5-10% of the commission. And I get that. Are you finding that's a stumbling block for you as well, Juliéth, with the girls' game still?
I really tried to help players. Uh, I'm not based on money or motivated on money, just because it's like the way I have to get back to football, what football gave me. So I
Yeah,
think that's my way to do it. I don't think that's the way of agents. The agents do, but I really tried, but I'm not that familiar to, I never covered, I don't know, like Bundesliga, female Bundesliga or something like this. So I don't have like real contacts in that. So for me, it has been really difficult to help players.
yeah,
That's why like I have a good friend. She's a journalist. She has covered mainly women's football, and she also kind of motivates me and tell me like, why don't you do this and that. But we are finding a concept because he knows she knows he's like a director of an academy, and he mainly educates women's in football. So maybe we can just like, I can just help him with the FIFA license thing and everything, and he has more contacts in South America or in Europe or whatever.
yeah,
So that could be a good way, but it's really difficult because maybe
yeah.
they expect a lot, and then yeah, I don't know. It's complicated, but I'm not close up like about this topic.
Yeah, because I think I know one player I worked with, I was lucky to work a little bit with was Lauren James at Chelsea. And she's probably one of the exception. There's probably 10 or 12 females around the world, and she earns around about £30,000 a week at Chelsea. But there's not that many players who are earning close to that. And that's one of the things that I think we've all got to try and get better at in football
Just
is
three clubs. in Germany are professional.
Wow.
And so the rest of the players, they are working, they are studying, they don't have a professional football career like properly.
I never knew that about Germany, so it shows you how far behind they are with the women's game, eh? Like where England, they've got WSL and then they've got the WSL 2, and then there's a level below that now as well. And WSL 1 and 2 are all pro players, they're all on salaries. And so, well, maybe that's, yeah,
But
maybe we need
England
to,
is just another level, believe
yeah,
me. But
yeah,
it's really sad because Germany, they had so many championships. They won so many championships,
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Like they are the queen, of women's
yeah,
football. But
yeah.
I think it's also a question of culture, how the culture in Germany is, and compared to Spain, to Italy, to England, the fans they support, and even Colombia. When you think
Yeah.
like, oh, the people there, the guys are so machos, no, at all. They
No.
love women's football. They support women's football. They say like, oh yeah, our women's national team, they are reaching some things, and the guys, they're not doing anything. They didn't go to the World Cup and everything. So, and I was a part of the journalist. Like we went together, and we said like, let's push the women's football, and we did it. We created a group, what's a group, and then everyone in their own channel, broadcast and everything, they started to push women's football. And then when you go to Colombia, if you are in a taxi, or if you are, I don't know, driving any way, or in the bus, you hear a lot of news about women's football. That doesn't happen in Germany. That's,
Wow,
for me,
that's
it's like
amazing.
crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. I've noticed in England, I'll be honest, it's changed a lot because prior to COVID, and when I was actually the head coach of Leicester City's women's team for a year as well. And this is going back in 2013, 14, and the level was nowhere near it is now. And what blew me away was like going to games in England, and there's like 50, 60,000 at the women's game. Like I went to a game, Liverpool versus Everton. There was 45,000 fans there for this women's game, which is amazing. Like it's so good. Now,
Yeah.
next question. I've got a great one from Matt F. So, how do you choose your players as an agent, and how is it different from when clubs look for players when they're scouting them? So, is it different, or is it the same thing?
Actually, it's the same thing, and it depends on every agent. So many agents, they just maybe they just feel some connection or something about the player. But when you do it like properly, actually, I try to see or to watch a lot of games, and to break it down, like like a scout do, actually, like technically, like physically, like maybe mentally. I don't know, because I don't know the player, but maybe if we have a conversation, I can you know I can notice a lot of things. And then, like, I do my report for me or for my colleagues that I'm working with, and then we analyze some things, and maybe also for the pathway, the if it's possible for me, because I always say I'm not going to Colombia to sign just some player that I can help. I need to help him to go out, not to help him to sign for a team in Colombia. That's not a player for me. That's all what I say. Players for me are these kind of players that they are able to jump, or to make a jump to Europe or to USA. That's like my kind of players. So I have like these standards, but is it because of my contacts? Because I have more contacts in the first, second division than in the third or fourth division. So I need these kind of players, you know. So that's the thing, because I have scouts. They are calling me or texting me like, you have, you are the girl, the agent girl from Colombia, so you may know a lot of players from South America, from Ecuador, and then da da da. So they assume you have the good players, so you have to find also the good players.
Yes. Now, I love this next question. This is the best one so far. So, Juliet, out of your job as being a commentator, a journalist, and also an agent, if you had to choose one, which one do you enjoy the most? I love that question. Thanks,
Oh
Kelly.
my
Well,
God, who did that? Who made that question?
and which is the harder one? Which is the harder one?
Okay. I think the harder one, I mean, if I have to say which one I enjoy the most, actually, as a football commentator, because you have the adrenaline, you have the adrenaline in the game and it's live and this and goal and blah blah blah, and you have your statistics here and it's like a lot of fun. But I think as an agent, I think I will choose the path as an agent, because as a human I can give more as a human, and I'm like that. I'm not just not an agent. I'm really like a person who wants to share values, experiences, and everything. So that's a good question.
Yes, I
Killer
think
question.
that deserves a prize. Now, look, we're nearly running out of time, and we've got one question to go. And this question, as well, is a really good one. This is from Dan H. Does it make sense for a player to have multiple player agents in the early couple of years, so there's more opportunities getting looked at? Or is it better to be with one agent and build that great relationship with that agent? What's your opinion?
I think I don't. I mean, of course, if you have an agent, he can work with multiple agents. So it's better for you to build a connection with one agent. Just with this agent, you trust, and which you can share your experiences, and then you can grow as a person, as a football player, and as an everything. So for opportunities, I wouldn't, care or have any fears about I'm missing these opportunities because I don't have many agents. Because if you have a good agent, he's gonna look for opportunities everywhere, and with a lot of agents, also with many agents that he's working with.
Yeah, that was a great question and a great answer to finish on. Now, Julie, if we are going to wrap it up in the next 60 seconds, but before we do wrap it up, I want to just say thank you for joining us. I know you're very busy.
Thank you.
Everyone is so excited to meet you. And one of the things I want to ask you, can we get you back on again, maybe 12 months' time, and you come and give us an update on how everything's going?
Are you asking
Now,
me?
yeah, I was asking you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear. Say again, sorry.
So I was just asking, would you join us again in maybe 12 months' time and give us a bit of an update on how everything's
Yeah,
going? And yeah. And
glad.
then also, just to finish off, Julie, if you could give one of our athletes a top tip as an agent, what's the one tip you would give our players to try and help them to make it as a professional?
Um, what you say, like resilience is a good thing, but also
Yeah,
like trust your way, trust your timing, not the timing of the others. Don't look at what others are doing. Just look at yourself.
yeah.
Just work hard for you, for your dreams, for your family, and yeah, that's it.
Now, hopefully as well, Julie, if I haven't told everyone yet, but we are going to be coming live from the Champions League final in Germany, and we're going to be there for a
Oh,
week.
nice.
So I'm hoping if you're around, we'd love to get you for an interview, and we'll catch up again.
Hopefully. Yeah,
Yes.
sure. I was thinking about it. So yeah, maybe. Let's see.
I've got a spare ticket for the final, so I might be able to help you out. All right,
Okay.
everyone, a big thank you for joining me and Juliéth all the way in Brisbane and in Germany. And we look forward to seeing you all in the next couple of weeks. And we're going to be back on Thursday with our next monthly Zoom call, all the way from someone who's worked at Atletico Madrid. So that's going to be an exciting one to bring to you. A big thank you, Juliéth, for me and all the team.
Thank you guys for your time. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
I will come back to you in 2 minutes, Julie, if you just stay on the line.